everyone, my name is Brittany. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm reading some holiday books for the holiday season.
It's Brittany, bitch.
I have 3 books I'm going to read for this vlog, and that includes My Kind of Christmas, Santa Cruz, and I think it's called A Holly Jolly Diwali. The only one I've gotten from the library so far is My Kind of Christmas, and literally all I know about this book is it is a cowboy holiday romance. It's basically like a cowboy returning to a ranch after like years in prison for like a mistake or an accident or something, and it's not very long, and it smells you know, like when you get that really good like old book smell, it smells amazing. This is one of the best selling books I think I sold all year. So we have Travis and we have the mayor, Maggie Delaney. And they obviously are gonna have like a romance. And there's a bunch of books in the series, and I actually almost requested like the 4th one in the series before I realized it was a series. So I wanted to start with the first one and even see if I like the town and the characters. And I know I probably could have read like the 4th one separately, but I wanted to go with the first one just to kind of get a feel for it and kind of start the series off on a good note just in case I didn't end up liking it. So I'm gonna get started on this and then get back to you guys. So I made the executive decision that I'm gonna DNF this book. I really don't like My Kind of Christmas, and there's multiple reasons why. So number 1, I don't like any of the characters, okay? Especially the love interest, Travis. He is basically an ex-cop who murdered an innocent man and went to jail. And now he's in this ranch he grew up in when he was a very little boy. I think my biggest issue with him is he's written like way older. Like I think he's supposed to be like a mid-30s ex-cop. He's written like he's like a 70-year-old man who's very stuck in his ways, and he even refers to something as women's work on page 66. So I'm not really sure how I feel about him, but it's not great. And then we also have the mayor, who is Maggie, and she is just meddling in everyone's fucking business, and she is so annoying. And I think the biggest issue is obviously Travis's father, Hank, is in town, and he's never like really talked to his father because his father was like an alcoholic, drunk piece of crap. And now Maggie wants him to play Santa this year for like their Christmas parade because the guy who played Santa left Travis the sleigh and the horses and the Santa suit and stuff, but he had to like go live with his kids because he was getting too old and they are like making him sell his farm. So then she keeps like berating Travis and everybody in town to try to like be Santa, and it's just really annoying. And you know what? This isn't for me. The writing isn't for me. The people aren't for me. This just seems like it was written like a really long time ago, but this was written in 2018, and all the characters just seem a lot older, and it's really not hitting for me. I decided to DNF it. I mean, this book is less than 300 pages, and I barely made it to the halfway mark, and I was like, you know what? It's taking me like 4 days to get this far in this tiny ass book. It's just not gonna work out for me. Also, let me tell you the quote. It says, "Why would she offer to help him with a heavy job that didn't strike him as women's work?" If you're like a 30-year-old dude, I understand you're from Texas, but like if this was written like the 1950s or this was like a historical romance and it was like a long time ago, sure. But this is 2018. I've never heard someone refer to something as women's work, and yeah. Also, he kisses her without her consent twice in this book so far, and he just like grabs her and kisses her, and they have no tension, there's no chemistry, there's nothing. They're literally just having a conversation, then he literally just grabs her and kisses her, and I just don't like. Obviously we know from her like point of view that she likes him, but like he just out of the blue just grabs her and kisses her like pretty aggressively. That just also didn't sit well with me. I don't care enough to finish. I'm not gonna finish it. I'm so sorry. I'm returning it to library literally in like 2 seconds. So I'm gonna get started on Santa Cruz. I've already read like a chapter of it, and so far it seems a lot better. Santa Cruz so far seems to be about 4 friends, I think from high school, that meet again at a high school reunion and decide that if they're also single by New Year's Eve, they're going to go on a singles cruise throughout like this, like I don't know if it's going to be through the Caribbean or somewhere exotic, and they're gonna go do some fun stuff. And I'm assuming they're all gonna have some romances or something. So I'm looking forward to this one. So far it's a lot better already than My Kind of Christmas. I'm gonna go to this library right now, and then I'll update you guys later on Santa Cruz whenever I get more into it.
Got a plan, it's gonna be so lovely on Christmas Day, my dear. I'm gonna get down on one knee on Christmas Day this year.
So it's been like a week and a half since I last talked to you, and I actually ended up finishing Santa Cruz, and let me fucking tell you, I would give this book negative stars if I could. I fucking hated it. If I would not have DNF'd My Kind of Christmas, I would have DNF'd this book because this book was not worth my time. And when I finished it, I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That was it. I'm honestly very upset with this. I know that this author has like so many books and she's really popular. And when I was reading through reviews, even a lot of the people who really enjoy her were like, this book was garbage. So maybe it was just this book and not this author. But this book was one of the worst books I think I've read all year. Like, honestly, I think it's gonna go in the worst books pile. Like, I hated it, and I'm gonna give it a negative star rating in my review. I hated it. I don't know what it is about it, but let me try to sum it up a little bit for you, but it just wasn't great, okay? Number one, the cruise did not start till halfway through the fucking book, and the rest of the half of the book was backstory. Like, it was backstory that we didn't actually need. Like, I didn't connect with any of the characters. It was kind of like a very badly done Sex and the City because I didn't care about any of the characters. I can still barely remember who they are. I don't remember their names. I don't remember their jobs. Like, it was that level of bad. The fact that I had to check the description multiple times to make sure I was actually still reading a holiday book, by the way, is a problem because I did not get any Christmas vibes from this at all. At least in My Kind of Christmas, if you want the Christmas vibes, it really had the Christmas vibes. It centers around a Christmas tree farm, which they find in the book that's like on his plot of land. But like this book had zero Christmas in it at all, except for like some descriptions of poinsettias. And let me talk about description. They over-described every single thing, like every outfit of every woman, of every character in every scene. And I've never had a book talk about how much each character tipped and how often they tipped each person. Like, it was like overly described to the point where like it was so frustrating. It wasn't actually like making a picture in my head. It was like overcomplicating just one scene. I don't know how even else to describe that, but I've never needed to know how much each character tips each person, how many fucking times, like, and it's probably brought up at least 15 times in the book. I'm not even joking, between like a couple of chapters. So I don't know who approved that, but that was not a good choice. On top of that, the dialogue is so cringe, and I really can't tell if these women are like teenagers or like old ladies, because honestly, I just could not understand the dialogue between them. Like, it just didn't really make any sense. Like, sometimes they just seemed like they were too young or too old, and it's supposed to be like mid-30s, and I just don't really get that vibe at all. And one of them continually uses the word honey pie. I've never in my life had anyone ever call anyone else honey pie. Like, not even an 80-year-old woman, not once. I've never heard that fucking phrase. And it was just so repeated and weird, and I don't understand it. I really don't. The pet name stuff in here were weird. The relationships were weird. We didn't really get anything of the cruise either. Like, everything we wanted to see was skimmed over. Like, I wanted to see the speed dating, and it was completely skimmed over. And it was like, oh, 2 hours later. I would much rather have seen like in the moment, and in the moments, the dialogues don't even like make sense or give anything to the plot. I honestly don't even know how this made it past editing. I have no idea how this is an established author. Like, I really don't know. And there is zero holiday magic in this. Zero. Like, there's no ounce of holiday magic for you. So if that's what you're really looking for, I would absolutely skip this. I actually don't know if I could actually recommend it. I think even a lot of books I don't like, and I even will give 1 star to, I could see a lot of people liking this, but like, I really don't understand what anyone would like about this at all. And I'm just so disappointed because I was actually really excited for it, especially when it first started. Like, the first chapter was really interesting with the premise of these 4 friends who are gonna go on a cruise together, on a singles cruise, and like, you know, meet people, but like the cruise doesn't start even until like halfway through. And then on the cruise, like, nothing is like fleshed out. It's like, Santa Cruz is really a snooze cruise, my friends. So would I recommend it? Absolutely not. I think it's one of the books I would not recommend whatsoever. And you know what? I'm just gonna move on because I'm done with it. So anyway, I already got started on A Holly Jolly Diwali, and I'm not very far into it, so I can't really give you my full opinion yet. But our main character basically loses her job in tech, and then she goes to India for a friend's wedding. And there she meets a London musician, and they hit it off. And that's kind of where we're at the moment. They're in India. And so far I'm enjoying it. I think it's a much better book than both of the ones I read for this combined. So I'm hoping it's at least a good 3 star so far. It seems good. It's not really my writing style particularly. It's a little, not like juvenile, but it just feel a little bit juvenile, but it's also because I think it's very modern and it uses a lot of like modern phrases and like acronyms and stuff. And I'm not really a big fan of that in books. I kind of like books that are a little more timeless. It's definitely something of the modern age. So if you like that, you'll enjoy this writing style. That's my only big complaint at the moment, is I'm just not really a fan. And then a lot of things I would like to see fleshed out in certain scenes are kind of glossed over. But there's also how much of the book left. So we'll see what happens with that. But I'm looking forward to this book a lot a lot more. So I ended up finishing A Holly Jolly Diwali, and I think I'm gonna give it probably around 2.5 stars. This reading vlog in general has not been very successful with any of these books. We have a 1.5 stars, a -1 star, and now a 2.5 star. So this was not my favorite reading vlog. It's definitely been very challenging. But let me explain a little bit more why I didn't love this book. So our main character, Nikki, is unexpectedly fired from her job, and then she goes to India for a friend's wedding. And when she's there, she meets this London musician named Sam, and they have a very insta-lovey relationship, where after like a few days together, Nikki decides that she would like to go live with him in London. Yeah, as if. I like the theme that Nikki always wanted to be like the good daughter, and she was always trying to be the good daughter, and then she decided to finally like kind of let loose and loosen up a bit and have a whirlwind romance. I really appreciated that, and then she's trying to get out of her bubble, but this book just did not work for me in pretty much any way. There are so many abbreviations like LOL or IRL, and I just don't really want to read that unless it's like in a text message. Like when you're talking to me as the reader or even in dialogue, I just find it really weird and odd and almost like too modern. And it kind of like just threw me out of the story a bit. I also just really didn't like the writing style. I think juvenile is the best way to describe it. I just really didn't enjoy the writing style at all. And I think this definitely could have used a lot more editing. There were a lot of little grammatical errors, and you can kind of overlook it, but like overall, I just didn't really like the writing style or the way the paragraphs put together. And I feel like some paragraphs were like missing another paragraph that like would have explained kind of like the in-between transition between certain sentences or thoughts. So it just didn't really overall work for me at all. The entire book, the writing style just did not really like flow for me. Speaking of the writing, there was also like way too many Indian terms that were not explained in this book. And I mean, I have a pretty healthy understanding of Indian food and culture because I had a lot of roommates in college that were Indian. And so I have like a pretty large understanding. And some of these words I had to look up. Like I had no idea what the fuck they were talking about. And there was no glossary. There was no explanations. Like sometimes in stories, they'll like say a word and then explain what it meant at least once. So then if they use it throughout the story, then you know what it was. That didn't happen once here. So it was a little bit frustrating, and it was a lot. Like these Indian words were used in like every single chapter. So if you didn't look them up the first time, you're going to be confused later on. And I just feel like that was a little frustrating, especially for the average reader. People really don't want to have to Google every single little thing to try to understand your story. So I think a little bit of explanation early on would have been a way to kind of help with that. One of my biggest gripes is Diwali's like the main theme of like the book technically is for the cover, but like we barely spent any time with this holiday. It's literally like one evening, and we don't really like celebrate it, or they didn't like drag it out a little bit. It was very glossed over. You really see more of the wedding and like the group honeymoon than anything else. And I really wanted more of like the holiday feel. And it was just so short in this book, and it was kind of towards the beginning and then a little bit at the end, and that was pretty much it. Otherwise, I felt like I was just reading any other book, honestly. My other biggest problem was the romance. Obviously, the whole book is about romance, and it's supposed to be a romance book, and I did not feel the chemistry between these two people whatsoever. I think it's also because it's just like such a short timeline of them to spend time together, and I never really understood why they even liked each other. Like there really was no character development showing why they enjoyed each other. I just had a really hard time with that. I feel like this was more like a personal journey. It was more like an eat, pray, love for her to figure herself out, and I actually would have like preferred they had like a little romance and then like it ended or something like Eat, Pray, Love. I just felt like it just didn't really work as a romance. Like I just didn't really feel it at all. I actually felt she had more chemistry with the guy in the beginning of the book. And yeah, it's just kind of a shame. Also, the steam factor for this is 0. So if you're looking for any steam, this is not it. There is like literally 0 steam. There's 0 buildup. I didn't really like the romance at all. I kind of just felt like it could have been left out, and she could have just enjoyed her culture and traveled India a little bit and found out more about herself. And I just feel like that would have been like, if this was like a literary fiction, I feel like this would have been like, this could have been really good. And I really liked the themes, and I love the culture, and I love learning about it. And a lot of like social justice things were brought up about like how terrible India is in some instances. And I was really thinking she was going to go like a social justice route, and maybe she was going to like find a nonprofit or something, and that didn't happen. So I'm kind of confused why that was brought up so heavily throughout the story that was supposed to be a romance, because 75% of this book was not about romance. So kind of confused why it was labeled as a romance in the first place. Anyway, I would still recommend it. I think for the culture and everything, I think it was great. I think it has a really sweet, heartwarming ending, but I just didn't feel it. And I guess if you can feel it for these characters, I think you'll really enjoy it, but I just don't really think it's anything special other than it has a great representation. We have POC characters. I just really wish the romance was kind of taken out of it, or it wasn't labeled as a romance. If it was just labeled as like general fiction, I think I would have been a little less upset, because I was really expecting romance. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time. Have a great holiday season. Bye.